Welcome back, YouTubers! Today we're going to be taking a look at the Masters of the Universe Revelations Masterverse Wave 2 Beastman and Spikor. Wow, that was a mouthful. And here you can see the large window packaging that we've become very familiar with. On the left is Beastman and on the right is Spikor. If I turn it to the side, you can see the absolute fantastic artwork on the side of the packaging. Again, I'm a real big fan of artwork on packaging, so I've come to appreciate all the work that they put into these things. If I turn it to the other side, you can see the words Spikor in Beastman. And under Spikor's name, you can see the words Untouchable Master of Evil Combat. And under Beastman, Savage Henchman. As we turn the box around to the back, you can see all the additional newly painted artwork back here. Again, fantastic drawing of each one of the figures with a little bio next to each one. On the bottom of each of the packaging, on the cross cell here, you can see the other figures that have come out in this wave, right here. And again, this artwork really blows me away. I really wish this artwork was on the front of the packaging so I can not only display the figure, but the artwork to boot. Let me slide Beastman in close. Feel free to pause the video so you can read his bio. And I'll do the same thing for Spikor. Bring him in nice and close. Feel free to pause the video, zoom in, and read away if you like. Alright, let me slide this back. And as I flip these back around the front, if you're a mint and box collector, again, a really fantastic way to display these figures. But we're going to open them up and check them out. And here we have all the contents of both the packaging laid out here on the table. Of course, you have Beastman and all his accessories, as well as Spikor and all his accessories. Let's start with Beastman here, and we'll go over his accessories first. Here's his fantastic whip that Beastman's known for. It's got a nice flexible string on it. Fantastic detail on the handle. And again, these figures are known for their weapons, and Beastman came with this weapon way back in the 80s. Next, we'll take a look at his fist hands that are included. And here you can see, these are both closed fist hands. Great looking fur sculpt on them, and I really like how they actually painted the nails to match the figure. Really fantastic looking. Next, I'll grab the other set of hands, and these are mirror image hands of what's actually on the figure. So here we have a right open claw hand and a left gripping hand. Again, they painted the nails on both of these. Really great addition. I really enjoy how they actually add more hands and give you more options per figure. Nice looking sculpt on the back here. Alright, let's take a look at Beastman next. He looked like he jumped out of the Netflix series and right onto my desk. Looking at his face first, you can see the war paint, the bluish purple rings under his eyes, the big yellow ferocious fangs. You can see his underbite when I turn him to the side here. His pointy ears. He's got 3 tassels or ponytails hanging off his chin and his beard. Coming down to his chest, you can see a couple of scars right here from the battles he's been in. Nice faux fur sculpting. Long blue loincloth, which is flexible, so that will get out of the way. Of course, more sculpted fur all over his legs. You can see the sharp, aggressive fur right here on the right and left side of his calves. Faux leather wrapping around his ankles. Some dark brown tufts of fur on top of his feet. And of course, dark brown toenails. As we get a profile look, you can see faux leather wrapping around his wrists and some more tufts of fur right here on his forearms. Nice musculature. And a really big mat of fur right here on his hunchback. Really great looking detail on this. And again, there's a hook right here on his belt. And that's actually for his whip. So let me grab that and we'll see if this fits in here quite easily. Like this. So now he can carry his weapon around with him, and you can actually take this string or whip and wrap it around the figure if you want, so it's not dangling down. Alright, let's get this out of the way. Again, nice flexible loincloth on the back side here. Nice fur on the back of his calves. Same profile shot over here. More fur on his forearm and leather wrapping. And back around to the front. So, another really fantastic looking figure to add to my collection, and let me see if I can't get him to stand up on his own. He's a little top heavy. Alright, next we're going to take a look at Spikor and all his accessories over here. Let's start with his hands first. Grab these, get them in nice and close. These are in the same purple molded plastic that the figure comes in. And I've come to appreciate closed fist hands with figures. Next, we'll look at his bright orangish yellow spike here, or mace. This is all one solid color, and it is nice and rigid. It's not rubbery at all. Fantastic looking spikes on this thing. Alright, let me get this aside. And let's grab Spikor's weapon that he's known for. Here it is. 3 massive looking spikes, and right here's a peg to put on either one of his right or left arms. Nice bright red plastic and some really basic detail on the spikes here. Pretty simple looking. It is rigid and not rubbery. So, here's Spikor's weapon. Next, we'll take a look at Spikor himself. And just like Beastman, we're going to start with his head first. And here you can see all the amazing spikes on his face with the bright yellow eyes and alligator type pupils. 4 fangs hanging down from his mouth. Get a side shot here. These spikes are pretty rigid. And of course they're on the top of his head as well. Coming down to the body armor, it's a nice purple armor with some gray highlights. More spikes on the right and left side of his chest. This crazy metallic purple belt he's got going on, and this dark brown loincloth. Purple skin on his legs and dark brown or blackish fur on his boots. All the way down with some wrapping. Nice profile shot. You can see his musculature here. Gray wristband. The spikes carry all the way around to the back here. Again, this is pretty aggressive. I wouldn't want this guy jumping on top of me. Nice flexible loincloth in the rear. Turning him around to the right side, you can see that he doesn't miss a day at the gym. The same kind of wristband on this wrist. And back around to the front. So, another fantastic set of figures from Masterverse. See if I can't get these guys to stand up. Beastman, of course, is a little top heavy with his hunchback. There we go. So that's the paint sculpt of Beastman and Spikor. Let's go over the articulation next. And what we're going to do is get Spikor right out of the way here. And we're going to focus on Beastman first. And let's look at his head first, like we always do. He can move this way. Sway his head left and right, I guess you'd call it. He can look up about this far and tuck in his chin about this far. And of course with his beard, that's going to be limited. Come down to his diaphragm joint right here. He's got a nice crunch right here, so he can hunch way over and look at the ground. But he can only stand up about this far. And again, that's just due to the sculpting, so nice range of motion right here. This actually swivels a little bit, if I can hold on to the waist here. A little back and forth rocking motion. Coming down to the shoulders. His arms can go up in a nice T pose. Of course, these rotate 360 degrees if need be. He's got a bicep swivel. Hold on to the shoulder here. Nice tight double jointed elbow. And if you manipulate the arms just right, he can actually reach around to his back completely. We'll come down to his wrists next. Straighten this arm up, and of course, they rotate 360 degrees if we need them to. There is a hinge joint, so this will go in this direction and back in this direction. And of course, that's the same for both his wrists. Straighten this up so you can see it. Put his hand down this far and back about this far. Now let me straighten out his arms, and we'll talk about his waist next. Get these arms down, and right here at his waist, he can go back and forth. So there's an articulation point there. Moving on down to his legs, he can do the splits fairly well. Not too bad for a gorilla type beast. Of course, he has the thigh cut right there. So that rotates back and forth in this fashion. He can put his leg back about this far and look like he's walking. And of course, you know what's coming. He can Spartan kick forward about this far.
This is Sparta!
And of course, he's got fantastic range of motion right here because of the loincloth. Let's look at his knees next. Double jointed knees. These are rather ratcheted, and they go back this far so that fur doesn't get in the way at all. He's got a boot cut right here. And we'll move on down to his feet next. He can point his toes down. He can point his toes up about this far. And these are on a rocker, so if I rock them, you can see the foot pole peg right there. And they rock back and forth. So you'll definitely have to utilize all this fantastic articulation to get this top-heavy figure to stand up on his own. And if you do so, you can get him to look like he's going to reach out and grab one of the enemy. And he'll be able to stand up on his own. Like this. And before we take a look at Spikor, and we have Beastman in front of us, let's grab all his accessories and just see how they work on this figure. Now, full disclosure, I haven't heated this figure up yet, so it's going to be interesting to see how these things pop on and off. So let's start with the right hand here. We'll pop off that claw hand. We'll put it on his gripping hand. And that popped in. Alright, that popped in really well. And this hand is really rigid, so I'm not sure how well he's going to be able to hold on to this whip. So let's try it on camera. Yeah, this is really rigid. This definitely would have went a lot easier had I heated this up. So with the few seconds it takes to use a blow dryer to warm these hands up and make them flexible, it's definitely worth it. But as you can see, I got it in there and he is holding on to it, and he is absolutely not going to drop this thing. Now, even though I got these hands in and out relatively easily, I will say I would actually heat these things up before you start yanking on them, and I guess it's become quite the norm for no matter what figure you buy today. Now, let's take a look at Spikor next. And I did actually heat up his hands a little bit with a blow dryer for about 30 seconds on low, and it made it a lot more pliable. And let's see how well this goes in. Grab this here, and oh yeah, definitely much easier to pop in his hands, and they'll stiffen right back up, and he is not going to drop this either. Let's take a look at his spiked hand next. Let's see if we can pop this hand out. Again, I warmed up this figure, so that'll pop out real easy. Grab this, line those two up, give it a push, and pop that in place. And now you can see what it looks like with both his weapons. And with just a little bit of heat, these went in really well. Now let's talk about the spiked hand for a second. This is articulated. It does rotate back and forth, but it doesn't go up and down, unfortunately. But at least it is articulated. Let's pop this back out. Put in a normal hand. There we go. And let's talk about the spiked hand again. This actually can go in his right or left hand, based on your preference, because he does have two gripping hands to hold on to this mace. Let's get this out of the way, and we'll go over the articulation next. I'm really liking the purple color of this figure. Alright, let's start with his head. He can move his head left and right. He can look up this far. He can tuck his chin in this far. So a really great range of motion with all those spikes on his beam. Let's go down to his shoulders next. Of course, he can get a nice T pose. He can rotate at the shoulders right here. Back and forth, all the way around. Of course, the bicep swivel. In this fashion. A nice double jointed elbow right here to show off that flex. Coming down to the wrist. This rotates, of course. And these have a hinge point, which hinge back and forth in this direction. And let's get him into a nice flexing pose here. Make Arnold Schwarzenegger proud. There we go. And of course, if you manipulate his shoulder and biceps in the right fashion, you can get him to reach around the back. Of course, his wrists go in this direction as well. Now, what I think we're going to do is remove the actual spiked armor here. And that's really easy. All you have to do is unbuckle it on the right and left side like this. Now, with this armor on, you won't be able to get that diaphragm joint to move at all. You will go back and forth, but of course you won't have any crunch. So, in order to do this, let's pop his head off and take this off. Put his head back on. Get him to stand up back here and look all aggressive. And as you'll see, this is a nice pliable rubbery plastic. And of course, to put it back on, you just slide these buckles through it and make sure they click in place on both sides, and it's just that easy. Alright, let's continue on with this articulation. Now, looking at his diaphragm joint here, it can go forward only about this far and back about that far, so it does rock back and forth just a little bit. It will spin left and right, but it will spring back, as you can see, and that's just due to the oval shape of his body. Coming down to his waist, this actually goes back and forth. Alright, we'll move on down to his legs next. And of course, with the loincloth being flexible and getting out of the way, that's going to help. He has a thigh cut right here that rotates back and forth, just like all the other previous figures. You can put his legs out, wow, really well. Some really nice splits for Spikor here. You can move his leg back about this far in a walking pose. And of course, let's see how far up he can kick his other leg. Alright, he can kick up just as far as Beastman. Let's look at the knee next. Come around here and get this hair off camera. Utilize this double jointed knee in this fashion, and as you can see, the fur on the boot does limit it to this range, but one thing you really want to utilize is both joints of his knee. You get a really tight bend like this. So definitely utilize both these joints on his knee. Moving on down to his boot cut, this rotates back and forth. Coming back to his toes here, point his toe down, point his toe up. Of course, these are on a rocker, so these will rock back and forth, and there's a foothold peg. And looks like some manufacturing details right there. So this will rock back and forth and really add to all this great articulation. And the more I review these figures, pose them up, and play around with them, I'm really impressed with the way that they designed all this movement for such bulky figures. Again, if you manipulate the arms in just the right fashion, they can reach behind their head and obviously stand up on their own if you can get them to balance just like this. Let me get him to look at the camera and give you that evil long stare. Let's wrap up this video by doing some comparisons of the other Masterverse figures I have in my collection. Grab a couple of henchmen here, and here we have Stinkor from Wave 3. Let me grab Evelyn over here. Stand her right next to Spikor. Let's grab Scareglow. See if we can't get him on camera. And last but not least, old Bone Brain himself, Skeletor. Looks like old Skeletor's army's starting to grow a little bit. So what's my final thoughts on both Beastman and Spikor? Well, as you can see in the video, the paint is on point. Of course, the articulation is definitely there. I really like how they added all those additional hands for both Beastman and Spikor's weapons. They both definitely look like they jumped out of the animated series and onto the desk here for a review. So if you have the means, I absolutely recommend picking both these figures up and adding them to your collection. This is going to conclude my review of both Spikor and Beastman from the Wave 2 Masterverse series. As always, I really appreciate all you guys watching my videos and taking time out of your day and commenting and just telling me what you think. If you like what you see, definitely join the community and go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to hit that bell for future notifications of upcoming videos. And most importantly, don't forget to help a fellow collector out and share your knowledge.